I was always good at math throughout my school or even
Yeah.
the college times, right? I'm from engineering background. So
Yes.
I thought my quant was great. But when I started with quant, it felt like I'm back to class ninth or class eighth, and I'm not able to solve like time distance questions, right?
Yeah.
And it would take me like a few minutes to solve those, where I have like more than a few minutes actually,
Yeah.
and I actually have few seconds to solve it, right, in the exam day. So I saw the gap. I would say one thing that helped me apart
Mhm.
from the normal coursework and practice, right? And that was while I was the initial phase of starting the reading part, the RC or verbal part. I realized whenever I had my phone, even it would not be in front of me on the bed itself, let's
Yeah.
say, and there would be just one ping, I would get distracted, right? So, and this was around, I observed this for a couple of days. That's when I realized this is a focus issue. I would always try that I'll wake up early, give a couple of hours prior going to the office, and that's when my solid chunk of study would happen. And then post that, of course, right after office, if I find some time, if I get done earlier. Now the
Mhm.
earlier would also be around my dinner time, right?
A big congratulations on this brilliant score. It's a very good score for any of the schools. And how long has it been since you actually got the score?
Actually, I got it around October, end of
Okay.
October.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So it's been fairly a bit of time, but yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It's been some time, but actually, I was going through the application process, so
Okay.
I couldn't find like while managing my job, I couldn't
Uh-huh.
find a lot of time for this.
Okay.
But
Okay.
like all of my weekends were packed with the application and everything of
Of
that
course, I
sort.
completely understand. Yeah.
So now it's much better. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I have some breather now, so I thought of connecting with you
Okay.
guys.
Okay. Okay. Understand. And but for just for instance, do you still remember how it felt actually when you finally got the score and finally you finally realized that now I'm finally done with at least this part of my journey?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely know. I know that feeling. It was numbing for some time, but then again, this is not this is more of all of the mocks that I did earlier. I was
Mhm.
landing in somewhat a similar range.
Okay.
So I had a range in my mind. Uh, of course, this was a score I was very satisfied with, and I was like, "Phew, no, I'm done for some time." Uh, but yeah, and
Excellent.
it was great.
Yeah. Could you just tell us, because I'm also talking to you for the first time, Janvi just told me about you, so
Mhm.
I'm talking the first time. And can you just tell
Yeah.
me about, and for the viewers also, that a little bit about yourself and how you came to know about this top 1% and what led you to start this GMAT journey and how you want to do an MBA, just in general.
Right. So I think I'll just start with a brief introduction for myself.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm Nikhil. I work with GS Associates, and I'm based out of Gurgaon office right now. And you know, while I do get an opportunity to solve very interesting consulting problems in GS, right? I just wanted to take it a notch higher and get my shot at some of the top tier consulting
Yeah.
firms, right? And of course, there is a primary criteria of getting a tier one MBA for that,
Hmm.
right? So that was my primary reason of trying for GMAT, at least to pursue. Like, of course, I was very satisfied with my work at GS. It was more like I would stay throughout my life at GS, right? That's how much I like the organization as a whole.
Okay.
But then it was like, okay, this if we can take a shot, why not?
Of
Right?
course.
And of course, one of like a couple of motivating factors were this and my flatmates also preparing for GMAT, right?
Okay.
And they started almost in the similar time, a couple of months before my start date of the top 1% course. So that definitely helped. You have a peer, you have an environment where everyone is studying, everyone is just finding out time to study.
Mhm.
Uh, all of them were in the consulting, in the consulting domain. They also had very demanding working hours, but still all of us managed, and that kept the morale very high,
Got
right?
it.
So that was another thing that pushed me to start it right now, right? I did not have a decision time that should I wait for a lighter project, right? When the work will be lighter, I'll just start then. It
Hmm.
was just like, okay, since it's the perfect time to start, I should go right now, irrespective, right? Also, I reached out to one of my undergrad alums who's also part of GS, and she gave me a very nice perspective, right? Because of course the work is very taxing.
Yeah.
So it was like, just treat this like another project that you're working on in parallel, right? You have a deadline in mind, just keep a deadline, and make sure you meet it. That actually pushed me to uh, you know take that risk of work management or time management.
Got it.
And yeah, I got to know about top 1% from my flatmate itself. So he tried GMAT earlier with few other courses. Then he got to know about top. He was very satisfied with the way things were taught here,
Mhm.
the way things were planned, right? And I was looking for something where I would not want to plan things,
Of course.
right? I don't want to look for resources. If let's say there's LSAT passage, people suggest that you should do LSAT passage to ease yourself at the GMAT passage. I would not want to go and look for resources, search up internet, look for some
Mhm.
Google Drives, some
Yeah.
portals where I can find material, right?
Yeah.
Everything is there in the top 1%
Yeah.
package.
And
You
when to
have
approach
all
the LSAT papers. You cannot just start with
exactly.
LSAT papers, for
Yeah.
example. Yeah.
So one of the thoughts I had earlier prior to starting the top 1% was, just, the word power made easy, normal lowest, right?
Mhm.
So that book is definitely that improves the vocab, right? And I think in the very early sessions, I don't remember that it was which session that was, but I think Sandeep mentioned that the only way to improve your verbal for GMAT is doing the GMAT material,
Yeah.
right?
That's
Of
true.
course, everything else will help, but this is the targeted approach that we want. The strategy
Mhm.
that he pitched in, that's something that, caught me. That nice, this makes sense. And yeah,
Yeah, exactly. I
that's
mean,
how I got into touch with top. But yeah,
gosh,
sorry, please.
of course, of course. I mean, for vocabulary, I think it takes years to actually build a vocabulary. So if you're
Yeah,
targeting for exam, just go for the exam specifically. Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
I
And
think yeah,
I
that
mean,
uh,
yeah,
mhm,
please go ahead.
please. No, so that's what that's the thing I liked about the course as a whole, right? Or the
Mm-hmm.
pattern of teaching or the thought process. So content, I think, would be more or less similar everywhere. It's not that the questions were made by Sandeep, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's more on how you approach it, how you tackle those things, how you strategize things, and yeah, that was my click of I should get top.
And when you started with your prep, what was this specific weaker areas of yours, and how were you struggling with it, and how the top course specifically helped you in that domain?
So again, I'll just, I probably throughout the conversation, I'll just emphasize a lot on verbal because
Okay.
I have not been a very frequent reader, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that's not something to boast of, and I'm not very proud of that. But I don't have a habit of reading. Now that
Okay.
focus was the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a lot of other distractions, like digesting the whole verbal passages, that was a big challenge for me in the initial stages,
Got it.
right? And practicing that, and I think the way Sandeep approached it was, it's not something, it's more of a maths problem, right? And it's not an open-ended thing or a qualitative thing.
Yeah.
You have to make it quantitative and just solve it, right? We've been hearing since the school time that, maths is scoring because you know how to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
English is not because it's open-ended,
Yeah.
right? So that was, a myth buster yet,
Yeah.
to be honest.
That's nice to hear. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you it's a very analytical approach. And the thing is, good thing about it is that any domain that you come from, you can just implement that particular analytical approach and you can get that level of accuracy that's required. Yeah.
Yes.
And when you were practicing, when you were usually working towards your prep, how much number of hours you were giving? I mean, I understand that with the with the work and everything that you're mentioning, and it must be a bit difficult to manage everything. And was it a bit consistent, or you were facing a bit of hiccups, or life was taking over, or work timings was a bit mess up thing? So yeah, a bit
Yeah,
of
I think from the timing perspective or the number of hours I gave in, there were no fixed number of hours, to be very honest, right? There are tougher days at work.
mm-hmm.
Then you don't have the mental capacity to come back and uh, because this is something you want to learn and develop yourself in, right? So I would always try that I'll wake up early, give a couple of hours prior going to the office, and that's where my solid chunk of study would happen. And then post that, of course, right after office, if I find some time, if I get done earlier. Now the
Mm-hmm.
earlier would also be around my dinner time, right? It would not be 5 p.m. I would
Yeah,
start my day mostly at 10, or now to approach office, it would be like 9, 9:30. I have to give my time to the office thing, right?
yeah,
And I'll be free again at around 9, 9:30, or I'll reach back home by 10. Suppose that I don't have the energy to grasp newer things, right? So probably that would be my practicing time. That was to the initial phases, but towards the end, I would utilize that fatigue time to do more RC,
okay.
right? Just to challenge myself that, this is the lowest level of energy I could have in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's solve a 45 minutes or 50 minutes of RC.
Yeah,
Try to do the easier passages now, and then probably move to LSAT passages as well, right? And that is just to kind of condition myself to, even if I'm not on my best energy on my test day or whatever reason, I cannot control that, right? I
yeah,
should still be, habitual of solving the verbal passages, even with the lowest of energy and lowest of focus.
yeah. Got it. And when you were practicing those RC, on a rough bar, how many passages you must have solved? I mean, I'm pretty sure you must have completed 700 to 800 PDF. And then you must
Yep.
also have started LSAT. Did you start LSAT papers also?
Yes, I did start LSAT papers. I could not finish them,
Mm-hmm.
but because a lot of the sectional tests or the tests that we have on the portal or
Yeah.
the top portal,
Yeah.
they have a lot of LSAT passages,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't have a count of that, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely I completed everything that was the part of GMAT study material and then did venture out into the LSAT thing as well.
Got it. And in general perspective, I mean, how much rough amount of time that you would say that it would take any student if he's starting from a scratch, for example? I mean, how much time did it take you? I mean, we can only count the part where you started being consistent.
Right. I think I took the complete course. I tried to be consistent from day one.
Okay. You were part of live
When
batch or the self-paced batch?
no, self-paced batch.
Okay.
I took the 6 month access to the course material.
Mm-hmm.
And during the 6 months, I would say initial couple of months. So the day one when I started doing quant, right, I thought I was great at quant. I was always good at math throughout my school or even
Yeah.
the college times, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm from engineering background. So
Yes.
I thought my quant was great. I do analytics, so DI would be easy, right? I do analytics based consulting. So that's fine. DI should also be easy.
Yeah.
Only thing I have to tackle is verbal. But when I started with quant, it felt like I'm back to class ninth or class eighth, and I'm not able to solve like time distance questions, right?
Yeah.
And it would take me like a few minutes to solve those, where I have like more than a few minutes actually,
Yeah.
and I actually have few seconds to solve it, right, in the exam day. So I saw the gap. I of course did have the concepts in mind, so that was a shocker for me in the initial stages. I did give some time to build up that basic because I wanted, like, prior to getting to the pace part, I wanted to get my basics right,
Mm-hmm.
get my accuracy right, the approach to solving questions correct, and then get to the pace part, right? So I did not speed up the initial phase. My course ended exactly, I think, one day after my GMAT, right? So that's how I planned it. Okay,
Okay.
I'll utilize this to the maximum. I don't want to
Uh,
rush it. I don't want to go for R1 with a weaker score. Right?
yes.
I'd probably go to R2, but with a better score.
Exactly.
So that was the thing I had in my mind. Uh, since I took the complete 6 month, again, that's something that would be different for everyone, or
Yeah.
probably the viewers would be watching this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if it's a full-time effort, if I would have done a full-time effort, like without my working hours, probably a couple of months would be fine.
Got it.
Right? But then again, depends on strengths and weaknesses of like
Yeah.
each to their own, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
I guess it's also depends upon sometimes you're not able to get that flow, and sometimes the thing just clicks and then things starts going a little bit more fast compared to what it was previously. So it totally depends on that too. Yeah, I guess.
I think
And
one
then
thing that also
mm,
I planned throughout this journey was so usually in like 3 to 4 months, I would have a 1 week, a complete straight 1 week off, a
okay.
vacation, probably go back to my hometown or a new place, right? Now I utilize that time for GMAT prep. So that was more of a study sprint I had. So I had two study sprints to be very precise, like through this 6 month.
Got it.
And it was like I have now taking those 5 days off. It's more of a straight 10 day. I don't have anything else to do,
Got it.
and I just have to do GMAT throughout and just, of course, unwind myself as well, right? So that helped me throughout the journey. And yeah.
Got it. And when you saying that you were relatively weaker in verbal, anything specifically apart from just putting yourself through that exhaustion of towards the end of the day going through that RC practice, anything specific that you think that really incremented your learning practice and how you started verifying of thing, or your accuracy started improving drastically from this particular day? Something you identified that this particular thing that helped you?
I would say one thing that helped me apart
Mhm.
from the normal coursework and practice, right? And that was while I was the initial phase of starting the reading part, the RC or verbal part. I realized whenever I had my phone, even it would not be in front of me on the bed itself, let's
Yeah.
say, and there would be just one ping, I would get distracted, right? So, and this was around, I observed this for a couple of days. That's when I realized this is a focus issue. I just turned off the notification sounds, right? And it was
Okay.
more like no notification sounds,
Yeah.
turned off notifications for most of the unimportant apps, right? Limited my time there because, of course, if I get deviated, uh, I was anyway, few years away from academia, right? Last time I studied was
Yeah.
end of 2019,
Yeah.
right? And post that I've been working on like group projects or probably wherever I work at the office. It's a team effort mostly, right? Of course, there are individual efforts as well,
Yeah.
but then finally you have to work or get result as a team.
Yes.
But this was a different situation. I had to get result on my own. There was no one I could ask during my GMAT exam, right? So I wanted that I should build the focus apart from the study knowledge or the course knowledge that was been like that has been given in the course itself. But focus was one thing I developed during this time. Like improving that definitely helped, right? So the grasping speed of passages that improved drastically once I just stopped notifications on my phone.
Got it.
So yeah, that I would say was a big plus.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Apart from that, of course, verification, I would see, the best thing about the course and how it helped me for the verbal thing was, uh, you'll not have like 100 questions to solve, right? It's like just solve these 20 passages,
Yeah.
and then you have a complete walkthrough end-to-end Octave application of how, let's say Sandeep was solving that, how would he approach it,
Yeah.
right? That definitely helps. Of course, you cannot be exactly the same person,
Mm-hmm.
but that helps structure your thoughts on approaching the question. So that was really helpful, not getting a lot of questions at once, just solving five, seeing the approach,
Mm-hmm.
solving 10, then seeing the approach. That I would say was a value add for me.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, you were talking about this team effort, and then you have to deliver on your own. Just, I thought about like, what about your motivation going into this prep? Because it's more of a solo journey. I mean, you can get after life class if you were self-paced course batch, but after that, you were you using any strategy calls or email support? You were you using the services?
I did not use that a lot
Okay.
because it was more on, so for the motivation perspective, at least, I had that in mind that I don't want to give GMAT again.
Mm-hmm.
It was just one shot that I have. I have to give GMAT right now. I need to get my best score now, right? And that's how I approached it. So I didn't take a lot of strategy calls or even the doubt clearing calls. One of the reasons was also I had my flatmate who was in the same journey, in the same path, just a couple of months ahead, right?
Yeah.
So I would get a lot of strategic help and guidance from him as well. So
Got it.
that definitely helped. So that's why I could not, like, I did not have to reach out to the top
Mm-hmm.
support. But
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. Coming on to the exam day itself, did you give your exam at the test center or online?
no, it was in the test center.
Okay. And how was the entire experience? Were you able to were there any irregularities or was there any surprise in the exam that came? And what was the order of the sequence also? If you can share.
I think I went with Quant first,
Hmm.
and then post that it was verbal, and then it was DI.
Okay.
Right? And irregularity, I think I had been practicing mocks. I was ready for what was going to happen that day.
Hmm.
And even reaching the place a few minutes before, you just ease yourself at the environment. That was really helpful. Another thing that helped me like do well on the exam day and not impact me negatively was the same time slot I was practicing mocks, just to build my the clock that way, that I'm not, let's say, low on energy from 1 to 4 in the afternoon, right? Because my test started at 1. Uh, Even if that's not possible on a regular basis, right? But what I'll try is, even in my office, from that 1 to 4, I'll have the maximum, focus time. I'll not go out on breaks. I'll not, go for coffee breaks, try to avoid coffee breaks at that time. I'll have I just change my schedule a bit. I had lunch earlier so that, you know, mostly you feel you have that afternoon slump, right? You have your lunch and then you feel a bit lethargic, you have less energy, and then after half hour or an hour or so, then you are back on track. So try to avoid that, try to build that habit for let's say a couple of weeks prior to the exam. That helped me a lot.
So over and all, it was not any surprise in terms of content also, surprise
Definitely.
questions, nothing like that. It was all familiar to you
Mhm.
in terms of all
Yep, yep.
everything that you have practiced.
Definitely. I would say it should not be surprised at all, right? Because if that's a course you're relying on for your study, I did not, well, again, this is not an advice I would give to anyone, probably depends on how they want to approach it, but I
Yeah.
did not have to touch any other material, study material beyond the top
Mm-hmm.
uh, coursework that I had, right? I did
Got it.
not go for the OG that people usually, I've had conversations with a lot of people, right? People don't take coaching as such. They usually just take OG and solve everything from that,
Got
right?
it.
And but I thought I would need some support from because again I did not have time to explore things, right, and fail and then learn. I just wanted a structured way, a planned way, and just a path I could walk on directly, right, depending on how much time I have. That's why I took the self-paced course as well.
Mhm.
Now that's a pro, because you have every course, everything that would be a part of the curriculum,
Yeah.
everything that's there in the coursework. Ideally there should not be surprises, right?
Yeah.
The tests are way beyond what's there in GMAT. You have tougher questions that probably might not be part of GMAT. You have
Yeah.
LSAT passages. I At least I would say 1.5 times, if not more, tougher than the GMAT passages,
Okay. Yeah.
right? Tougher as in more verbose, longer,
Yes. Yeah.
slightly complicated questions.
Yes.
All of that combined, it's more challenging than the GMAT passages.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're used to being focused, let's not say even accuracy, right? But if you're focused on time, you focus on understanding or digesting the passage, then I think the GMAT passages are more comfortable for you to tackle.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, I think the sheer amount of length of passages that is there, it just increases the amount of it just increases the retaining capacity of yours because you have to mind
Exactly.
map the entire content for at least next 5 minutes. So
Exactly.
yeah, so just practicing those passages really help. Yeah. Any yeah. So finally, any specific do's and don'ts that since you're already done with that part, so that do's and don'ts that you would suggest to other students who are actually preparing or they would start preparing after watching this video later on.
I think a big do would be just do it every day, right? Even if you have the toughest day,
Hmm.
even you did not have a lot of time today, sit for half an hour. In the worst case, sit for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But at least practice every day. Even if you planned on doing quant today
Yeah.
and you just have 45 minutes and less energy, just do a quick DI session, right? Just do the data insights part or probably anything of that sort, but don't miss even a single day.
Got it.
That is something I tried to follow because again, I had unpredictable working hours. I did not know if I would be working 8 hours today or 12 hours or 15 or 16 hours, right? So it was always if that's a tougher day, I'll do something and then sleep. But uh, that was one thing that at least helped me maintain the momentum and did not lose track of things, right? Because of course, if let's say 5 months after I give my exam, I will be a bit rusty if I see a passage now,
Exactly.
right? So that is something I would say was a plus for me.
Hmm.
Uh, from a don't perspective, I think you need to find your own don'ts.
Yeah.
That's one thing because uh, I think there is no one size fits all solution for anything, right? You can get directionality, of course, but then like I would say switching off my phone for like a couple of hours helped me, right? But there would be someone else who might have some emergency.
Yeah.
It would not work for them, right?
Exactly.
And even from the focus perspective, that might not work for them.
Yeah.
But or they're already on a better stand than maybe I am
Yeah.
on focus,
Yeah.
right? So that's something I would say is the don'ts are really subjective. But
Subjective.
do's, this would be one thing. As far as possible, refrain yourself from social media during that preparation time at least.
At least that
I'm
preparation. Yeah. At least
yeah,
in preparation.
I'm not in support of starving of things to get another, right?
Mhm.
But then there is certain amount of discipline you need to have at in during the preparation time, and that is primarily because you don't have enough time, right?
Yeah.
There
Exactly.
is a fixed 24-hour in a day. You can't have like 2 hours of talking to your friends, a couple of hours of social media fun that you usually have,
Mhm.
and then going out for dinners as well, and then you find time for your preparation.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Of course, striking a balance is important, but you need to dedicate certain number of hours to GMAT, to the preparation, to make sure you finally reach your goal, the target score that you have in mind. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure the target score people have would not be a lower score, right?
Yeah.
And of course, higher efforts are required to get to the higher score.
Exactly. And it's always worth it. I mean, you are a testament. You definitely must have felt so relieved when you finally got done with this part of your journey. Yeah.
I think one thing that subjectively worked for me was, let's say I'm reading a passage, right? Of course, you cannot predict all of the content,
Hmm.
but the earthquake passages or certain, so it would be difficult for me because I don't have the geographical knowledge of how it works, right?
Yeah.
Few things would be easier to me, right? Some business-based passage, some historical passages are fine because you can understand things from that. But some of the science-based passages, I would say even the biology-based passages, if you find a recurring pattern in your you know in the content that is challenging you a lot,
Yeah.
try to read more about it
Yes.
beyond it. Just see a couple of YouTube videos on how earthquakes actually happen, right?
Hmm.
That will just help you visualize things better. I think even a lot of RC solutions that were there in GMAT in the coursework, of course those had the nuances of understanding earthquakes, let's say beyond the passage itself. But again, that does not give you a visual understanding of things, right?
Yeah.
So I would suggest if there's one topic that's bothering you a lot, do go to YouTube, just type in how earthquakes happen, give
Yeah.
1 hour of your preparation to that. That
Hmm.
will definitely help a lot of things on the other side.
Yeah.
Error logging, I would say, is 100% do. Uh, because you will never remember where you messed up a couple of months ago, right? Error logging helps big time.
Yeah.
The error log that we get from Topper Percent, that definitely is helpful. If that does not work for you, probably just add another column there, add comments on your own, whatever works,
Right.
but log your errors, right?
Yeah.
And not from a very broad perspective of just writing the topic that okay, time and distance is a problem for me. Not that, right?
No,
What
not
is
that.
the exact miss you did in time and distance? Uh, did you not multiply things by 60 to that specific detail, right? If one thing I can recall was I usually the units was something I usually missed a few times, right? And
Yeah.
even let's say for probability,
Yeah.
there's a particular use case you're missing always.
Yeah.
Just try to write it. By the time you do a lot of questions here and there after like a couple of months of preparation,
Mhm.
you'll see a pattern there. You will identify a
Yes,
pattern
exactly.
definitely, and that's where you need to strike the hardest.
Yeah. I mean, in
And
terms of
and
error log, you have to look for a thing that's going to be implementable for the next questions also. You don't have to be very specific. Okay, this all the time in question, it was about Rob running this. It is not going to be very specific. It has to be about
exactly.
why you went wrong with. Write that thing. That's so that it cannot be implemented in the other questions also.
Yep, definitely. And I think that is something I would say is 100% do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's it. You have to and again the key advice and kind of my thought process changing advice was the same thing, right? Treat this as just another
Mm.
uh, project.
Yeah,
You have the
exactly.
fixed timeline, have a deadline for yourself, because of course there's no, let's say for any other competitive exam, you'll have fixed deadlines, right?
Hmm.
That okay, this exam will happen in November in the last week. Now you know how to prep for that. But
Yeah.
for GMAT, let's say you planned for November last week, and you think your preparation is not up to the mark, you'll say, okay, I'll give it 3 months later. I apply in the next cycle, right? Anyway, the courses, you have a lot of ways to lose your discipline
Yes.
for GMAT preparation, right? And
Yes.
that's primarily because of the flexibility of the exam.
Exactly.
If you've planned in a certain way, you give a proper reason, you can delay the exam.
Hmm.
Anyway, it's applicable for 5 years, right? I'll apply it. I'll give the exam the next year, right? So
Hmm.
that's where you need to bring in discipline
Yes.
uh, and kind of get to that. I
Got it.
think that would be the key takeaway. So a don't is definitely don't just think that once I'll be perfect with my certain topics, that's when I'll give my GMAT exam.
Yeah.
It once you are through the basics and you're starting more on the advanced part of things, just book exam date that I need to get, or at least on your first mock, right? The
Hmm.
first official mock you're giving, you know where you stand right now.
Yeah.
Just plan. It's not like, if today's the first mock you give, don't, it's probably a month after that or a couple of months, whatever it is, just fix the time, book the exam, and then start with the preparation. The day you book the exam, the preparation approach and the seriousness changes a lot. It
Yes.
should not change ideally, but it changes a lot, it improves a lot. You have to get that way.
Got
So
it.
that's one thing. And planning mocks is very helpful, right? The official mocks, even the amount of mocks you get in the time mocks that you get in the coursework itself, that's really helpful, right? To the extent that I could not, I think I had a couple of full mocks remaining prior
Okay.
to giving the exam, right? I
Okay.
could not get to the complete mocks in itself. So that's the amount of mocks you have, sectional tests, topic wise tests. So that portal helped me a lot. And I would recommend utilizing the content to that limit, right? You can get the coursework anywhere. You
Yeah.
know what the concepts are, right? But the way it is strategized and the way it is structurized in top 1%, that has been like a major support through my preparation journey at least.
Excellent. That's great to hear. Yeah. And those are really good takeaways also. Yeah. So thank you for that. And yeah, that's it. I would say. And what's your plan as of now? You have already applied for round two?
Yes, I've applied to a couple of schools,
Hmm.
and I'm waiting to hear back from them.
Okay. Okay. Excellent.
So mostly it is this year I'll go to an MBA college.
Excellent. Yeah, that's what we'll let's see. We'll definitely hear the good news soon, and we'll stay in touch. And let me know of any of the updates that we get. Good news is okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you, Nikhil. Thank you for your time. This has
Thank
been
you so
great to
much.
connect with you and talk to you.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you so much. I think I'll be more than happy to help if I'm required to help at any point, right?
That's excellent. That's
Be it,
excellent to hear.
yeah,
Yeah. We really love that when any students really want to give back and we have that culture. I mean, I'm the testament of that particular thing. So we really appreciate that environment. Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nikhil. Thank you
All
for your
right.
time.
Thank you so
Okay. Bye
much.
bye.
Yep.
Have a
Have
good
a
day.
great day.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.